We're live. Who all is here? Danny, Boyd, Unfinished Project, LP94, me, the One-Eyed Cat, Wendy, and Buff, all in order. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. I think that's the farthest we've ever gotten that chain. Dust Devil Garage, Junkyard D, 999th. Yeah, I saw Brian put out a new video today. He's really cooking along on that knuckle duster. Junkyard D was asking if Tech with Deke is tonight. No, Deke will be a week from right now. I talked to Deke today, and that live will be a week from now. Content Creator Workshop also Sunday, 4/21. Just a reminder there. I'll mention that a couple of times. Wrong English. NSB Custom Cars, Pure Pontiac Garage, John is here. Twisted Mopar Dennis, Engine Light Garage. Nick the Van Man 90. Calling Tebow. Street Fox 5.0. How's it going, sir? Turbo Tom 416. My Aunt Nancy. Nancy Cook is here. 38 POS Racing. Mohawk 62. My mom is here. Levi is here. RT211 Racing is here. Ross, the tamer of that Wild Red Challenger. 6% Scott. Sean O'Brien says, hey, I'm in Louisiana this week. Well, cool. It's better to be in Louisiana now than in July when it's 100 degrees. But, Sean, this, like right now, would probably be the perfect time of year for crawfish. So if you can get in on doing a crawfish boil right now, this time of year is perfect. You should do it. It's amazing. Mike Ivan, the Torque Converter Whisperer. Mike Ivan, I saw, I might even show this later. This, if I can do this without disrupting stuff. I saw a tech tip about draining a converter, drilling a hole in the converter and putting a pop rivet in there. And I'm like, man, I'd be awfully hard pressed to create a leak it doesn't have. Bad Tree Blake. Heathens gather up, hit that like button. Well, thank you. Andrew Nelson says hello from the Nivlac 57 family. Cool. If you liked the thumbnail, that was something in the Nivlac 57 shop. I was honored to get to take the tour at Nivlac 57. That's cool place and even cooler people, and we had a good time. Tony's Hot Rock Garage is here. Lunar Outlaw Garage. Well, what's happening, Lunar? I saw one of your shorts come up today and saw where you're LS swapping the Buick. You're doing the opposite of what Dallas would do. The One-Eyed Cat. Sean says crawfish. I'm telling you, like right now, like second half of April is about as good as it gets. Dave Black 57 says no news, unfortunately. A whole lot of silence. You never know, man. Could be silent before the storm. We'll see. Welcome to this tech tip where we destroy a perfectly good torque converter. That's about what they did. Of course, it was GM. So 6% says, who's hosting the Content Creator Workshop on Sunday? It'll be on my channel, and I'm going to have Bear Rose Garage 5 p.m. Eastern time this Sunday. And so we'll do some different stuff for that. And it'll be a lot of fun. Learn a lot of stuff. Mike Ivan says, I've seen it done many times. I've seen a lot of things done many times I wouldn't do, but it seems like there's one benefit and about a dozen downsides to that. But Jason's Garage Inc. What's going on, Jason? Calvin says, hello, by the way. Very polite folks. It was great to get to hang out with them last weekend. And you always learn new things when you talk with the Nelsons. Luna wants me to come there to take a tour to Hemmings Garage. Perhaps. That's a long way into the north. You know, the north is like scary, man. But yeah, I think it's coming home. I agree. Cowboy car crushing. How are you doing, man? Who all in the chat wants to see me have cowboy car crushing on this channel on a Friday live? Let us know if you'd like to see that. Nick says my engine is 7 to 10 days out. Transmission should be about the same. We're about to party. Yeah, Nick the Van Man is building a full-size Econoline with a stout 306. That's a fun build he's got going on there. Well, Levi, why not? Why not a lot of things? Victor's sticking his head in. Well, your head just got stuck in. What's up, Victor? Street Fox Mike says cowboy cars. Exactly. I'm glad to have him. One-Eyed Cat said, did Jethro make it to New York? No, it was just the time was just a little too tight on that to make that work reasonably. So we did not. Jethro would have been to his 19th state. Cowboy Car Crusher, my email's on my channel. I don't have any way to post links for you, and you don't have an email on your channel, but my email's on my channel. Or you could, if you have a report Auto Salvage Outlaw, he can get you in touch with me that way too. But let me know. We'd like to do it. We'd like to have you on live. We could talk about car crushing and all of that good stuff, because there's a lot of neat things that happen in those yards and the shredders and where they reclaim the metal and all of that. Big Mike of the Hoopty Barn just made it from across country. Colleen Tebow is doing the omnibus greeting. Let's see, is this a record? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. I don't know that I've ever seen more than 26 people in one greeting. That's impressive. Get to Iowa. I would like to go to Iowa. I've never been to Iowa. That should happen, Blake. Yeah, well, you know what? Good things can always happen. We'll stay positive. Cowboy Carl Christian says, right now I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas. Lock your doors. Little Rock's an interesting place. Big move your head. I can't see John. That's pretty funny. Rainy Day Auto, how's it going? Howdy Treat Fox. Don't want Jethro to hear that. He's all about getting his treats. Unfinished project was not included in that 26 omnibus greeting by Colleen. Oh, man. Well, at the risk of missing someone, I try to do every person I can in the chat. Yes, One-Eyed Cat says, Mike Ivan, I need contact info, please. Don, I will get you Mike Ivan's contact info. Mike, I recommended Don talk to you about getting a converter for his car because Don's, both his engine and transmission have kind of, they've wound up becoming more and more probably than what he was starting with. It's got a pretty significant cam going in it, and I think it would behoove him to have a conversation with you about what converter he needs. Rainy Day has been wiring. Well, that's cool. Cowboy Car Christian says we're on the better side of town. Yeah, well, that was really helpful. When I went to visit Joe, he said, hey, you should stay here. Or, he told me the place where you can stay and have wheels on your car when you come back to it. Because there's some rough areas when you get over there. I mean, Memphis, everybody knows Memphis is like a, don't come to a complete stop anywhere kind of place, right? And Little Rock it tries to rival at some of those places over there. In fact, one of the best car repossession videos I have ever seen, probably the best, was in Little Rock, Arkansas. And what's funny about that one is the guy who filmed that repo agent, he had some title on there that was the most technical, something for compliance or something. And I watched it because, you can see it was a repo video, and I watched it. Man, this is amazing. And I commented, I said, dude, you need to make this the title. White Trash Pulls Gun on Repo. And he changed the title, and it went from a couple hundred views to 250,000 in a few months. It just took off. But that's the kind of stuff we talk about in Content Creator Workshop. But anyway, that video was in a sketchy part of town there. Technician Troy, how's it going, sir? Cowboy says you smash that pedal, it gets up and goes. Well, that should be true of anything. Enough timing and accelerator pump and all those good things. Dizzy says, how's the best group of YouTube doing? Hey, you people. Well, howdy, Dizzy. This is the best group on YouTube. It's a great group of folks. 38 says you can leave the keys in around here. Yeah, this town is nothing exciting. Criminally exciting happens around here. Rainy Day says, we'll see if EcoBoost ever becomes a classic. How about they don't last? EcoBoost will never become a classic. The vehicles they put in, no, that's anything's possible there. But that EcoBoost stuff will be, if there's any future there, it will be, oh, hey, I need to get that out and recycle it before I can put a real engine in. Lars says, can't tape all y'all's names at the moment, but hey. Lars, you're not hanging out with Kid Rock today, are you? I think Lars hangs out with Kid Rock. He's got a short on his channel of Kid Rock's miniature White House. Kid Rock made a White House. It's about half scale. So instead of being 55,000 square feet, it's 27,000 square feet. It's in Nashville. And Lars put up a short of it. But Lars just doesn't want to admit. He actually hangs out with Bob there, But he took it from the driveway because he's not one to name drop or anything. Calvin says someone probably said the same thing about Chevettes. Absolutely. You know what, Calvin? It's funny you say that. I was looking through, I get an email from Barn Finds, a subscription. They had some clean Chevettes, and they're not even that expensive. I'm like, that is a bargain classic right now. You can still get a really clean Chevette and get a deal on it right now. I think that's a bargain that a lot of people just aren't picking up on because it's two-wheel, it's rear-wheel drive, they're two-door, they're the right size. They could be, they don't weigh anything. Schweeters and Gears said, operating at the power plant today. Currently at low load, making 175 megawatts. Very cool. JB, I saw you sneak in here. One on cat says I get a pass on that. Okay. Chevettes are the coolest. I agree. I went to high school with a guy named Matt who had a white 86 Chevette. And he always drove it like he stole it. And I remember he liked to run over boxes and things in the road just because he was a teenager and he could. And one day he ran over a box for a microwave at about 35, 45 miles an hour, and the microwave was still in it. It was on the road that goes to the mall, and it had fallen apparently out of the back of someone's truck. It had a new microwave in it, and he hit it, and he did some damage to the car, and the microwave was a goner. But I remember when the Chevettes were just disposable like lighters, and now you don't hardly see them. But I think those Chevettes, another thing too, this might be a little thing, but one thing that tells you a Chevette definitely belongs with the cool old cars, it's just a thing to me. The top of the doors are painted body color, and then the door panel starts. To me, it's much cooler when you have body color paint and steel, and then the door panel starts lower. Because that's just kind of like only an old car thing. Nothing will have that today. People are way too fragile to have, sheet metal in the car, But to me, that adds coolness to a Chevette. The van is like that. Of course, all your A-bodies are like that. And that to me is the way it should be. Yeah, over 1.6 million views on that short. Well, you going to put up the short where you were hanging out, grilling out back at the pool with your buddy there, Kid Rock, a.k.a. Bob? 38 POS Racing says Vegas and Astros are cool compacts. Yeah, I agree. But Vegas are hard to find. Astros are still a few of them out there, but they won't be for long. Dizzy posted a video of a banner signed. Well, that's cool. I remember signing that. That's the one you had on your car trailer, right? Big Mike had 2 Chevettes, a 76 orange. That's a first year. 2-door and a black 4-door. Yeah. Yeah, we used to have a neighbor that had I think it was a 76. It was black or dark blue or something. But I remember it had the body integrated into the grill that was painted with the car. And they stopped doing that at the end of the 70s. For the 80s, they were all the plastic grills like that, which looked okay. Ron says he likes to leave his keys in the switch at work. They could have it if they think it's worthy. Well, what I think is funny is if I were to leave the keys in the van and somebody said, okay, do we really want to risk it for the van, and that whole thing is kind of funny when you think about it, but I don't leave keys. Old McDonald has a car. Hello. JB could input a bunch on the Chevette thing? Well, you should. JB, have you ever thought about putting that 2.8 with the supercharger in the Chevette? That'd be cool too. Calvin says, my dad used to run away from the cops in a Chevette. He knew the roads better than they did. Could catch him on the straights, but then the corners, goodbye. Oh, yeah, I bet. I could see that. And I like the Chevette. The rear-wheel drive thing is really, to me, what makes that a durable, worthy car. And apparently they're still out there. I was surprised at no more than they're fetching, but I think that'll change. Levi says, I think there will be a future era of 2-door cars in the USA, a second muscle car era. Yeah, what I see is a lot of people change what they call a muscle car, right? I mean, look at this stuff that Dodge is doing with that. Yeah. I mean, the EV and all that. It's just a lot of people. It's like how they recycle the names for cars. Same thing. Oh boy, now Unfinished Project wants to know why the cops were chasing him. Did he have some bootleg liquor or something? Troy says, just to let everyone know, I've done absolutely nothing to the Sonoma. Too much life happening. Well, that's all right. Do what you need to do. We'll be here hanging out. Yeah, Turbo Tom says, where he is, things stay locked up. Well, it's pretty boring here. Not much like that happens. The torque tube drive shaft was interesting in the Chevette. Yeah, I've not done any work on one to know, but that's an awfully old idea for 1976, first year of that car. Unfinished Project says rabbits are fast. I guess they could be, but my favorite of the Volkswagen Rabbits were the diesels. I actually think it'd be pretty neat to have one of those diesel Rabbit pickups, front wheel drive. In his words, Andrew says, a couple times he was speeding, a couple times he was running alcohol. Well, okay, there we go. So in other words, basically just paying tribute to Junior Johnson each time, right? I got that. I got a tour of the Nelson's place on Saturday, and it's always good to see those folks. I had lunch with Buck and the Nelsons, the whole family, and the mom and Jethro. We had everybody there, and it was a great time. But obviously, if you want to see what they've got going on their channel, check it out. But man, good stuff going on in there. Lots of good stuff going on in there. So if you want to see more on this, you'll have to watch Niblack 57 channel. Chevette's made ill-handling drag cars with a nasty small block in them. I could see that. Sean says, I know you're having the tech live stream in a few days, but I wanted to make sure welded spider gears are okay. That's interesting. That's a good question. We'll ask. I don't ever want to jump ahead if it's something I'm not positive about. Okay, well, this is the perfect place to ask them, but let's wait till then because I wouldn't want to put something out and be wrong about it. Looks like Colleen got Tony's Hot Rod Garage to do some shirts. If you need shirts done, Tony's Hot Rod Garage does an excellent job. I can tell you that. And he's talking about some flex pipe at the rear of the exhaust. Okay. Mini spools are cheap. Mini spools are surprisingly cheap, actually. Dizzy says, buddy John Shepard's bought a new Chevette in 77. Says it'll do a 90-degree turn at 50. He said, try it. I said, go. We did it. Okay. I'd love to see. I know I won't expect video from back in the day, but that would be pretty cool if somebody got some grainy old footage of that. I'm gonna do a giveaway here in just a little bit. We'll do a giveaway here at about 8:45 here in the East. Levi says 73 to 77 Chevys are growing as well. Prices keep going up. Yeah, no, says mine will never be worth anything. There's a lot of cars that just people never really thought had any value, and then they took off. And One-Eyed Cat says, Lars, all these Jeeps are getting expensive. That is the truth. Things are getting ridiculous with everything. I really think that there's going to be a day where pretty much anything made before OBD2, people are going to say, yeah, that's a good car to have, because the OBD2 was really, there's been a progressive overcomplication of everything, but at least all the overcomplication that happened in the 70s and all through the 80s, most of that you can just undo and fix. But it's once it became electronic overcomplication, then you have problems. Like these cars they make today, everything is so integrated with all the body computers and the screen and all this stuff. It would be extremely difficult to just simply fix that. Not to mention, states with inspection and all of that. It might be really hard to deal with all that. Heavens Mopar Scott is here. Scott, you have any updates on the Charger that will be a car again? I saw some good stuff on your channel. Just asking. Lars suggests to Don that he should star in OnlyFans, and unfortunately, Don says he tried it. So we will take your word for it. This project that I subscribe to it. Oh my gosh. All righty. We've got some new stuff going on in the hopper. We're adding a few new things to the No Name Nationals merch store here pretty soon. Before we do, we're going to give some things away. Yeah, Turbo Thomas saying that new Grand Cherokee has about 60 modules. You see, yeah, all that stuff I would just, it doesn't even cross the desk in my mind that it would ever be anything I'd want to own. It's just crazy. So all these people have cars that are burning to the ground for no apparent reason, and they have to take it in the dealer because something didn't work with the touch screen, and that's $1,000, and you just have to take the word for it because it's not going to work if you don't pay them. And I'm opting out of all of that nuttiness. Today there was today at lunch there was some guy next to me in the parking lot. It's some kind of Nissan little sports car of some kind, and he's out there and it won't start, and I have no idea. I mean, I'm sure it's 10 miles of wire and a mess in there. Meanwhile, I jump in my 85 Dodge and fire it right up and go on about my way. I'm just opting out of all that. There's nothing about those modern cars that says, okay, it's worth all of the hassle and all the tax of all the stuff you got to deal with and the cost and the complication. No, there's nothing that they offer me nothing for that. And all you can do is ask the computer if you can roll the windows down, which works great if the car's in the creek and you need to get out of there before you're trapped in a car. The windows you can't get down, the doors you can't get open because the computer controls them. But anyway, Unfinished Project said there will come a day when walking will be the only way to opt out. That may be true, but that will be after my lifetime. I am planting my pirate flag. I'm drawing my line in the sand. I'm not going to comply with that. So after I'm dead and gone, they can do what they want to do. Junkyard D, can you share pictures of 2 other people wearing a shirt like yours? Maybe. Turbo Tom says it keeps you between the lines and from running into someone until it doesn't work, and the person who depends on that just gets in a wreck and doesn't know why it happened. Yeah, it's bad enough with a sea of cars operating on the road that have no driver now, because basically the driver's seat has become a passenger seat for people who aren't paying attention now, and it's pretty frightening. Heaven Mopar says I was working hot and heavy on the Charger, and then my daily driver puked on me and had to get that squared away. It's game time again. Yeah, it happens. It's all right. You've got 152 days and 3 hours and 33 minutes, so you can do it. Colt McDonald says time to find a lightweight non-running car and put a sail on it. Okay. Yeah, that lane assist stuff that Turbo Tom is talking about, I would rather just drive a car without all of that going on. To me, it ruins the driving experience. Mostly old parts. Ron Ward is here. He says, good evening. Well, how's it going, Ron Ward? I'm going to be doing like Ron Ward here in just a few minutes, giving some stuff away. YouTube services, the friendly troll. What's that saying about excuses? You mean this? This is a quote from our friend Just Mopar Joe, and it says, excuses are the tools of incompetence. Just Mopar Joe. I'd heard a few people too many, and I'm like, finally, well, we need to put Joe's quote up on the wall. Yeah, we asked what YouTube Services' actual channel, his main channel handle is, and he won't say. Colleen says, I hated the lane assist in the rental. I swerved because a semi was drifting over. Yeah, you know what? It seems like years back I had a rental that had lane assist, and I went right back there and I said, you guys have got to turn this thing off, because you could just be driving normally and have it start beeping from what other people are doing. So this is driving me crazy. So they turned it off and everything was fine after that. Mike says, my wife's Subaru yells constantly about how bad she drives. Yeah, Subaru had a great base idea with the water cooled, flat 4 and everything. I always thought that was really neat, but as they have gotten more complicated over the years, nah. So to me, the Subaru is like the Volkswagen. 2 good names if you're back in the 70s and before. If you're current day, nope, forget it. I remember my high school principal had one of those little Subarus that had the rear-facing seats in the back, and it had the flat 4 in the front. And I remember he popped the hood, the spare tire sat on top of the engine under the hood. So, boy, that's just wild. And his looked really nice, and most of them just got really ragged with rust. His must have been sitting in the garage for years before he got it. It was orange. Levi says to get Challengers or any of the pickup trucks, yeah, that's a fortune too. Just get the stuff that doesn't. I mean, it's a rental car, man. Go cheap, but figure out how to turn it off, because I know they did it on that one that I had that time. But that's been a while. I don't even remember what it was. Ron Ward says VW, break out the tri-square tools. I like the Beetles, where you could get a toolkit that went on the spare wheel. And man, you'd be amazed how much you could. You don't need a lot of tools to do almost anything to a Beetle. Old McDonald says beeping lane warning is better than the steering wheel vibrating on the wife's. Is that a real thing? Do they actually build that feature in to do that, or is the wife's Ford just got warped rotors or something? Oh, and you have to turn it off every time you start. Nope, wouldn't own that for anything. Ron Ward says, I enjoy manual steering, manual brakes, and manual transmissions. 3 things that just are gone. That's sad. Last I looked, I think there are 8 cars in the United States that can still be purchased with a manual transmission, and a lot of those are just submodels of the same make. There is very little that can still be bought with a manual transmission. And no pickups. Ron says that's why it's called driving. Well, I agree. Ron says, my steering wheel vibrates. I'm putting it on jackstick. Exactly. There's Charger 383 Mopar William. Well, what's going on, William? Charger 383 Mopar. Colleen says, my newest vehicle's an 03. I'm good. Right. Unfinished Project says, I've seen a lot of off-road recoveries that could be avoided if they just shut off the traction control. Yeah, I'm not for any of that. I know Ford would do traction control with the brakes. I always thought that was weird. Everything I've ever had that has ABS, it eventually just stops working, and I'm like, good. Because the light on the dash never bothered me near as much as the brake pedal carrying on. Cowboy Car Crushing said all those driver assist features were supposed to make car insurance cheaper, but I don't think no, they didn't make insurance cheaper. Of course not. What insurance is cheaper now than it was then? That's nonsense. Hot Rod Guy Garage, how's it going, sir? Old McDonald likes automatic bright light dimming. Okay. So you're the guy that pulls up behind me with the bright lights on in my back window then, because he relies on the auto dimmer not working when the car's behind you, right? Yep, molten tires, that's right. William is making a lot of red rocket progress this weekend, planning on getting the front frame welding and straight axle installed. Oh, that sounds wild. RT211 says, pulled my trans back out today, going to take it apart tomorrow and check everything. Going to be a couple weeks before I get back to the track. New converter won't be here till the 30th or so. Is your transmission okay? Was it flaring in high gear or anything? What kind of upgrades have you made to that 727? I'm assuming it's a 727, or is it a 904? What kind of upgrades have you made to that thing? Thumper says, I have an anti-theft device in my car. It's called a carburetor. Well, yep, that's true. I think the ultimate anti-theft device would be a column shift manual transmission. I couldn't imagine a Gen Z car thief stealing that. Hot Rod Guy Garage is fighting new combo issues, just 300. Yeah, that's the way it goes. But that's why you do it. That's why you sort it out. Levi says, my newest is an 05, and the government is keeping me from driving, getting the title stamped rebuilt. Yeah, I think that's crazy. Old McDonald says, if I know it's me, I'll turn on the searchlights. Well, if it's a van that looks just like mine, Ron English says, Buffalo Brian had a Subaru Brat with the seats in the back. Yeah, oh yeah, you'd never have that today. Are you kidding? Never. Levi says, now they just break it and leave it. Probably. Mostly Old Parts says, a brief summary. I announced at Flying H Drag Strip last weekend. Great surface, but the facility is still under construction. Lots of newness to sort out, but the facility has great bones. Cool. I hope people will check the place out. Russell says also, I think my ignition module coil just died. Both are new. Yeah, well, that's probably why they died, because both are new. The ones that are 40 years old are the ones I'd trust. Thumper says, if the van says free candy on the side, it's not John. Right. He just looks like it should. It doesn't actually. There's Auto Salvage Outlaws. How's it going, sir? Unfinished project, telling Auto Salvage Outlaws banana. Okay. Well, Coke gets a potato. ASO gets a banana. I get Dark Sport. No, actually, I give away free candy out of the van on Halloween. I actually did that. I set up. It was perfect. Jethro and I set up on the side door of the van and gave away candy at Halloween. So one day out of the year, it really is a free candy van. Cowboy Car Crushing says, hotels lie when they say the pool is heated, but doesn't bother his kids. Yeah, well, whew, I can't even imagine getting in a swimming pool in the middle of April, but I guess where you are, it's considerably better. Hey, we hope you'll come out to Sykeston this year. Come out and come to the No Name Nationals. Be a blast. Dizzy Izzy likes modern medications. Thumper says, put in a long day today, lashed the valves of the 68, tore the front end off the new project, and got 2 rusty heaps out of my yard. Sounds like a lot of stuff going on. And there's the link to Cowboy Car Crushing Unfinished Project. Put up the link. RT211 says it's a 727. Got Cope's valve body in it. Oiling mods, extra front clutch, governor delete, bolt-in sprag, billet rear servo, a few other things. Have you reinforced the strut for the band on second gear? I've seen several 727s bend those things when you turn up the valve body pressure, fall out in the pan, you lose second gear. Andrew Nelson says, I was listening and heard a comment about straight axle. Who was that? Yeah, who was that? That was a lot of comments ago. Who did put in a straight axle? Who's doing some gasser-like stuff? There's T's Good Time Garage. What's going on? RT211, you know, Cope, his bands are actually welded. They're not just spot welded like the factory did them. His are actually welded. So something else too. Keep you from losing the band that way. Hey, thank you for being here, Cowboy Car Crushing. My email's on my channel. Get in touch with me. I'd like to have you for a guest on a Friday. We like watching your work and like watching you put cars in the hopper and everything, but I think it'd be fun to have you as a guest to be able to ask some of these questions that a lot of people don't know about the business you're in. It'd be interesting. NSB. Yep. Lee got it. William and the Red Rocket is the straight axle. So, Andrew, that's a straight axle going in a Cushman. That's what it is. So, Andrew, if you want to call out a Cushman, there might be a lot of action on the bets on that one. Levi says, Thumper, there is a reason 3,000 to 4,000 horsepower cars use a TH400. Okay. Turbo Tom's asking, Cowboy, do you save the gold from those cars? Wrong words asking Levi how the weight reduction is coming along. Okay. Assuming he means on the car. RT211 Racing says, I'm I'm checking it over since I have it out. About 280 passes on it, 1,500 street miles, no real problems. Right on, man. The single biggest thing to make a transmission behave better is that valve body you've got in there. There's a few key differences on those in the 904, but I like both. I'm just partial to the 904. Levi says 0 for him. Good lot for the car. Unfinished Project says, who's not running a straight axle? That yellow car I showed is not on either end. William, is that a gasser? It's a Cushman. Is it a Cushman gasser? That'd be wild. Hey, there's Dust Devil Brian. How's it going, man? I'm going to do a giveaway here in a few minutes. It's 8:41. Sneaking up on us. Yeah, Dizzy's mentioned Dust Devil Garage new video. He's like me. Brian doesn't put out a lot of long-form content, but I watched it. It's pretty good. So if you've been watching the Knuckle Duster, Brian's got a lot going on, and that's a good one to get you caught up on the Knuckle Duster. Yeah, what gold? There's no gold there. They sent it to be crushed. Didn't leave any gold in it. But you know what? If we have Cowboy Car Crushing on live, we can ask him all kinds of questions he's never been asked before. Like, what's the most interesting thing you've ever found in a car? I'm sure no one's ever asked him that. But you know what? That would be a good conversation for a Friday evening. Twisted Mopar's living the dream. Very cool. Levi said, I'm sure the 727 is probably a good transmission, but because of so many years of 400s being the test dummy, it's got good support. Well, they both have pluses and minuses. I think the 727 is a little more efficient. The 400 is probably a little stronger. The 400 keeps applying. So whereas the 727 applies and releases a band, the 400 does not. I think that's advantage 400. Andrew Nelson's interested in a gasser class in unnamed nationals. If there's enough interest for it, sounds good to me. Colleen says, my minivan's a straight axle. A lot of minivans have a straight rear axle, yeah. I think those straight rear axles, if you could, put some simple steering on them, would be great for doing a gasser. There's Mean Street Mopar. How's it going? Mean Street Ken, we're having a content creator workshop on my channel with special guest Barrow's Garage this Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern. You are invited. It's designed for the no-name 500 guys who are trying to work on their content, but of course, anybody's welcome. Got a bug in here. I think that's the very first bug of the season that's gotten in my office. That bug sticks around in here, it can get interesting because my dog will jump up and grab it. He didn't care if it's right here. He'll jump right through the picture to get it. That could be a first. Yeah, it sounds good to me. You'll just see who shows up. So if you've got friends that run gassers and you say, hey, you know what? It's something we'd like to have, I'd love to see it. You know what, too? Southeast Gassers has some really strict rules on what they want to do to keep what they want to do. And that's fine. That's cool. It's their series. But, there might be people that have gassers that just don't quite fit into all that and say, hey, I'd like to come have a class run at your event. Maybe we could do that. But they do need to be content creators. Thumper says, I don't think I'll have my gasser done this year. Well, he did say 2025. Yes, RT211 says, I'm going to try to do some videos on the transmission. If you do, let me know. I'll be happy to share it. Tag me on it. I'll share it out. Office is bugged. Yeah, literally. I'm like, where did he come from? That time of year, you start to see stuff like that you wouldn't normally have. Not that I can recall, Junkyard D. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We have things show up, and depends what people want to do. Most of the old parts is our old 62 Valiant was sold to a guy in Ohio that turned it into a gasser, straight axle, flip front end. Runs mid-9s these days. Wow. Could see that. Do gassers have to have a straight axle? That's a good question. I know when I think of a gasser, I think of a straight axle. There you go. There you go, Ross. Dizzy's offered to be your cameraman. Blue Grid says I'll be late Sunday running third heat and autocross for content. Cool. Sounds great. Yeah, so the thing about those Blue Grid, we have Barrows. Buck couldn't make it. He had a conflict with work, so I understand that certainly. But we'll have more content creator workshops. I'm sure we'll have Buck on at some point. But the idea is that we help people get the most out of their content. Like proper title, proper tags, ways to, maybe help video, audio editing. That it's a good place for all of those kind of questions. And I'm happy to share whatever little things I know, but I try to get guests who are really good with this. Like there's no question that Barrows has really cracked the YouTube code. If you watch what he did with his channel in the last couple of years, you're like, wow, this guy's figured something out, and he has. And so he shares lots of little tips and tricks that help people with their content. And it helps us share that content with the community, and especially guys who are trying to get their first 500 subs. And it's a good journey to do that, earn those subs, and that's what these are for. Ron's asking, doesn't Barrows have a straight axle on his car? I was thinking so, actually, now that you say that. You know what? For those, it'd be kind of cool to round that up. So if anybody knows for sure how many straight axle front end stuff we might have there, it'd be good to ask. It'd be a good question. BNR says, I think the Turbo 400 is the greatest 3-speed auto, but the 727 was the only to full auto shift at 7,000 and a 65 Hemi Belvedere. A Jay Leno special, he took it out. Yeah, I like them both. I like the torque flag for the simplicity. The 400 is probably a little stronger for the simple reason that it just applies and applies and applies. So you're not like having to release the band, for example, to go from second to third. Turbo Tom says all yellow connectors have gold pins. Well, that's you guys' deal with trying to recycle all that. Andrew Nelson says Junkyard DR 54 Studebaker that was at the No Name Nationals last year was a gasser from 59 to 64. Ran as a land speed record car, or ran as a land speed car and set 18 records, and it's now a straight axle drag car. That's cool. Yep, that's a neat little car. Andrew, he did well with that car too. That was his first time back in the seat all year too. So it's a cool car. Levi says, I love the sound of a big naturally aspirated motor at 8,000 to 9,000. Who doesn't? Thumper says, last June I pulled a 64 Le Mans out of the woods. It had been sitting there since 72. The frame is gone, so it's going to be a straight axle tube frame car. Cool. Old man says, looking forward to seeing how 318 Will runs 318 Duster does with the changes he's done. Yeah, oh yeah. I really like watching Tim will make changes. He'll do video before and after, and Tim really does a good job with that stuff. Cowboy says, we don't go that far with dismantling. Some folks do pull the wiring harnesses out, but they're not clipping the yellow connectors. I know one thing, if you want to see some wiring harnesses getting taken out in brutal fashion, Cowboy will take one of the forks and go right through the base of the windshield behind the dash and pull the wiring out. pretty wild to watch. RT211 says he's going to be doing it at his buddy's shop, a lot more room and tools, knowledge of the transmission. That's cool. Yep. Yeah, film it. If you need any help, holler. We got some transmission ringers in here, RT211. BNR says a Turbo 400 will explode if you shift into neutral 6 or 6. Yes, a Turbo 400, if you're going to blow up a drum, will blow it up on the top end. If you're going to blow up a drum in a 727, you're going to blow it up on right at the start, either through a neutral drop or sometimes they just happen on launch. And what happens is the rear sprag gives, and it could be the roller springs, could be the sprag actually spinning in the case because they're just pressed. It's funny. I have a sprag race like laying on the dash of the van. I could actually show it if I brought it in here. But then what happens is the drum can spin at reverse ratio, which is 2.21 to 1. So at 4,050 RPM, if you break a sprag and there's no sprag holding it, that drum can turn 9,000, and that's about where they start to distort and that cast drum breaks. So that's what happens on a torque flight. The TH400 will blow up on the top end at speed. There's Dean Stevenson. And Busted Radio Garage. Chris, how's it going, sir? I got a giveaway to do. We got 55 people in here. Let's do it. All right. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but we're going to add something new to the merch store. And for those of you in the chat who think you know, don't say anything. Okay? If you think you know, don't say anything. Because there are a few people who know. But what I've done here, I've got a number on this paper, on the other side of this paper. I'm not going to tell you what you're going to win, but here's the deal. I have a 2-digit number on here. The first person who puts up the 2-digit number on this paper wins it and gets shipped to them. How's that for a crazy way to do it? First person that puts the 2-digit number on the back side of this paper wins it, and I ship it to them. Oh my gosh, has the chat ever come alive? Was that a crazy way of doing it or what? Of course, Dean guesses a 3-digit number. I told you it's a 2-digit number. Oh my goodness. See, a lot of people are picking my favorite number, I see. Oh my gosh, we have a winner. So, coming to you. Won't tell you what it is yet, but you want it, Victor. Well, cool. That's a fun way of doing that. And did anybody else get it? No. My goodness. Look at this. It's like patterning a shotgun all over the place. I told you. Yeah, look at the comments. We average about, on a normal Friday without a guest or anything, we average about 600 comments an hour. And when I have guests, it can be as many as 1,500, depending on what it is, per hour. Yeah, I know. We had some 46s and 48s, and Ron says 47, the number of times I've changed plugs in the Roadrunner in the last year. I had 2 that would always get just nasty in the swinger. And yeah, I know that feeling. And then Ron says, hit the like button. Well, if you feel so compelled, that'd be cool. Well, cool. That was fun. Dean says, I'm overthinking. Dean, you overthink everything. You're known for that. Well, you wouldn't be Dean if you weren't one of these esoteric figures from the other side of the world making us think about all their cryptic posts. Victor says, I rarely win anything. Are you kidding me? Unfinished Project puts up the link for Busted Radio Garage. Yeah, check out what Chris has got going on. He had a pretty big kaboom here a little bit ago. I hadn't yet seen that video. I saw the thumbnail for it, Chris. Looks like you've done the autopsy on Homer's blown up engine. Dizzy says, I win all kinds of bad luck. I can go with that. Dizzy can be a lightning rod. Homer popped. Well, I'll tell you what. He's a short on his channel there, Ron. Rolls into the burnout pit, sent up black smoke looking like a diesel about to make a truck pull, and kaboom. Looked like Hiroshima at that blower. So hopefully it looked worse than it was. Cowboy says, my mom always told me I'm a winner. Well, she's not wrong. You've got it going on. You got your good little business, good family, good channel. That's a winner, man. Unfinished Project said it's all about energy. What you send out comes back. Okay. He used to have a coworker that said that my office had the worst feng shui. I had a desk that overlooked a set of stairs, and I had my phone in the wrong corner because it was a desk phone for the wealth quarter or something. Just like, I don't care. I like being at the top of the stairs. I can see what's coming. Okay. Busted Radio says new weekend. He may or may not be back. Oh, man. Check it out. Laura's got some lightning bolts. I dropped one of my shipping packages. I've been doing some No Name Nationals fulfillment over here. This is where I do all my weighing of stuff for, shipping labels and all that jazz. I knocked one of my boxes off over here. I have them sitting by the printer. Got a whole system over here that you can't quite see. Yeah, that old feng shui thing. There was somebody else there one time who was vacuuming. She said, "Oh, come on, man, you don't want to vacuum all the chi out of the room." She was cynical about it. I always thought it was funny. Unfinished Project says, I rarely win, but when I do, it's in glorious style, so everyone hears about it. Chris says, I use the same scale. Actually, I've used this scale for lightening up parts too. Like I've weighed sun shells before and after and different things I've taken some weight out of, like governors. If you're going to modify a governor to shift later, you've got to do that to know how much you're taking off of it. I mean, people that will weigh a transmission on a scale when they build it don't realize there's a big difference between taking weight out of the transmission and taking the rotating weight out of each part. I have actual numbers on what the weight changes between, say, steel planetaries and aluminum planetaries. The carrier, anyway. The gears are obviously steel in all of them. Sean O'Brien says, earlier this week I had to swap head gaskets because of water in my oil. Oh, no. The head was 1/1000 from flat. Must have been scratching the head gasket dirt install. I guess. Could be. Or maybe they just didn't take, like we've heard one YouTuber say. Nah, something happened. Well, cool. Well, real quick, since it's the top of the hour, on Sunday, April 21st, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to have a content creator workshop on my channel, special guest Barrow's Garage. And it's geared toward the No Name 500 guys to help them get the most out of their content for getting subscribers. But anybody's welcome. Come and check it out. Barrows has definitely cracked the code, and he will be able to help. Oh no, now it's back. Well, that was strange. Okay, so I was still on your screen but frozen, huh? Yeah, that was weird. LNA Auto Works, what's going on? Glad you could make it. Yeah, I appreciate that. I never asked for likes or subscriptions or anything. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, so anybody who wants to game the algorithm and all that, hey, go for it. But to me, I'm just all about sharing our stuff with the community, and whatever happens, happens. But for people who are about gaming the system to see what they can do, that's cool. Do it ethically, more power to you. Laura says order a No Name National shirt, which you can. We have black and gray with the old school logo. And I'll ship it out from my little fulfillment center here. LNA, what are you planning on bringing to No Name Nationals this year? What about the A in LNA? You going to do a 2-car team? BNR's talking about a Sprag clutch. Okay. Bad Tree Blake has popped back in here. Swinger of the Blue Wrench Blake. Unfinished Project is putting up some of our No Name 500 contenders. The Absurd Ty Higgins has been sitting at about 478 for a while now. But we may have him on live here pretty soon to get over the top. Ty's a good dude. He came to me at No Name Nationals last year just asking if he can help. Real courteous, nice guy. Nice guy. Does nice tattoo work too, his ink work, which a lot of that's on his channel. Has a cool Chevy van too. So looking forward to seeing what Ty's got going on. He's going to get to 500 very soon. And of course, we've got Buffdale Campo. He's about 112 away. He will get there soon. RT211, he's around the 350 mark, somewhere like that. But although with what he's doing, torque converter testing and that kind of thing, pretty sure he's going to go sailing on by. BNR said, never knew about the dangers of racing a 400 to a YouTube racing transmission mechanics builders. Yeah, I just know that drum can blow up on the top end. And I think it's when they go into neutral on the top end. That's what I think. It's like on D-cell or something. Yeah, let's not forget Indirect Connection Jason and Riley's Junkyard and Petting Zoo. LNA says it's the plan, going to be a much better year for the Mustang, trying to keep it quiet, and we've got a burnout car for the wife. Well, that'll be exciting. Well, we plan to have the pit there for you. The highly dramatic reverse drum. Well, I know it's the high gear drum on a torque flight that it's a good idea to get a billet drum. Well, it's a good idea for anything to have a billet drum in a 727. Obviously, there's lots of 727s run stock drums just fine, but man, in a racing application, it's just not a bad idea. It's also $795 too. But it's, to me, man, that's an explosion right under your right foot, pretty much. I like Blake's style, Jason, like that. It's very Blake. Link the Scarlet, the Four-Eyed Cuda, yep, and Mean Street Mopar. Yeah, the whole crew. So I'm going to tag them all. Hopefully we'll do some good stuff on Sunday and help get the word on their channels out. Yeah, and RT211 is right. Billet drum is like the ultimate insurance against it blowing up. There's other things you can do. Obviously, a bolt-in sprag. I was reading comments on another transmission video on YouTube a couple days ago, and I'm just like this. This guy's spending all this money on a transmission, but not on a bolt-in sprag. And then some other commenter said, well, why not? Well, because I don't want to drill these new holes and create stresses. I'm like, dude, you don't drill any new holes. There are new holes. There's no holes to drill. He didn't know, but he was just imagining all this stuff. That, and you can, a shield is fine, but a blanket is better, really. And $795 is cheaper than a foot or a leg. Yeah, well, there's a lot of truth to that. But are you gonna make a passing candy cane? Stephen, we've never talked about that. I did make a pass in Haney last year, but truthfully, I got a lot to do that week. It's not a weekend for me. It is a week for me. It's several days before and a couple of days after. And I just got too much on my mind and too much to do, really. But no, I think you're thinking of Haney, and no, we've not had any discussion. Of course, we didn't have discussions about last year either. Andrew says that reverses and will frag at high RPM, cures an aluminum drum 300 to 400. Okay, so that's for a turbo 400. The billet drum for the 727 is twice that. Battery Blake says, and a blanket will keep you warm on the side of the road when you're jumping over. You see, the more you know, right there. But see, when it breaks, it's already warm under there. So you can get under the car, see? Yeah, see, now you know you're thinking. How many miles are we away from that car making it to Lambert's? Have you actually calculated it out, Victor? Yeah, Haney's fast. Haney was faster last year, or the year before. Had the big motor, bigger cam and intake and all. It ran the 750s. It had the small motor in there, so it was about an 812. Cope left with it a little higher RPM than what I did. I left with it about 500,000 less. Cope's got a few pounds on me too, so I think I was 100th better, but I really should have been quicker than that. But I was just taking it easy. I don't want to break anybody else's stuff. But Haney's a runner. But that's really amazing when you think about how stock that engine is in Haney. For that heavy truck to run an 812 with the little motor is really impressive. Andrew Nelson says stock ones are okay to 6,000 plus, not engine speed, it's the shaft speed. Yeah, well, that's actually the same on the 727 because your engine speed at 4,050 and the torque flag turns into 9,000 at the drum. So yeah. Something else people, for whatever reason, I don't know, don't think of this. I had a friend who would do this. I don't know if he still does, but it always scared me to death. He'd coast down a hill with a manual transmission and just push the clutch in to coast. I said, dude, when you do that, that clutch disc goes to spin some huge amount of speed because you don't have any more engine braking anymore. But you still have the rear wheels multiplying back through your transmission. The clutch disc is going to speeds it was never designed to turn. I said, you don't have any SFI blow-proof bell housing or anything on this Toyota truck. Bad Tree Blake says, I think I'm just going to eat rolls this year to soak up all the toxins consumed in the pits. Now, sounds like you got a plan. Unfinished Projects put up the link for Mohawk 62 with his big block Scamp, yes. And for you non-Mopar people, no, he did not take a dart and a duster and put the two together. That's called a Scamp. Think of a non-sport version of the duster. Most of the old parts says, has anyone heard anything of Calvin lately? Calvin was in the chat just minutes ago. In fact, it might be Andrew's in here. But he says, no news yet. It's been quiet. But he did post that update earlier in the live. Thumper said I should bring some fuel down. Yeah, Thumper makes his own ethanol, E100. So, sounds cool. Notchback Nova. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Scamp is a notchback duster. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, right. It looks kind of like a dart and a duster crashed, and that's they said, hey, that actually is a pretty good look. Let's make a car out of that. Yeah, Unfinished Project is a notchback duster. Yeah. Or a dart that they found the Plymouth front end for. I don't know, whatever. But see, one thing that weirds me out a little bit about the Scamp, so you know how like on a Dart Sport, you've got the Dodge front wheel opening with the Plymouth rear wheel opening on a Dart Sport. A Scamp is the opposite. You have a Dodge rear wheel opening with a Plymouth front wheel opening. And that's always kind of weirded me out. And you'll never think about it until I say it. Then you'll look at one and go, no, that's how they are. See, when Dodge had that, had the Demon and the Duster body that had that rear wheel well, they never gave it a Dodge specific that matched the stamping or anything. It just is that one wheel well for everything. So if you have the Dodge, you got that distinctive front wheel opening. And then Plymouth had a different one that was more square and everything. And they look weird together once you notice it. Scamp is a Plymouth Dart. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to look at that. It's the Scamp. The Scamp is the one that GM people never get right. I bet Mohawk has had that car called everything. I bet people have called it a Duster. I bet they've called it a Valiant. I bet they've called it, whatever. They say it's a Dart. They say it's how many different. What percentage of people, Mohawk, get your car right on the first try who are not Mopar people? That might be a good way to ask that. Colleen says, who can help me out with a 95 F-250 inline six with fuel delivery issues? Well, what's going on, Colleen? I know one thing. Don't check it by sticking a pencil in the fuel rail, because I know somebody who did that and broke it off and sprayed gas all over the engine and caught a parking garage on fire. Andrew Nelson says, Calvin's wrapped up for the evening. You're stuck with me and Pa. Okay. I think he means Paula. But yeah, Calvin was in here earlier. Old McDonald says, to me, the Duster looks similar to a Chevelle. Yeah, to people who are not Mopar people, though, it's always more interesting to see how they see it. Ron says people call my Roadrunner a Charger. Yeah, that's when they're like really out in left field. RT211 says, I've been at a gas station with my Challenger and had someone say, nice old Camaro. I had a neighbor one time. The guy walked over. I'd just gotten my Dodge Dart, and he says, which is it, a Chevy or a Ford? Blue Grit Garage says, my first car was a 71 Scamp, bucket seats and console, and it ran. Yeah, I like the Scamp. Heavens Mopars had a 70 Scamp, sold it in the day. I didn't even really remember, did they make, I guess they did make it in 70. I never really thought about that. I was thinking of 71 for some reason. Yeah, I've seen that truck on your channel before, Colleen. Is that the one Damien put a head gasket on? Rainy Day said, I've had someone call my 67 notchback Barracuda a Corvair. Yeah. I didn't know you had a 71 Demon, Ron. That's pretty cool. I can see you riding that. Mohawk, Mr. Scamp there says, maybe 1% get it right. It's amazing how many people have never seen or heard of the Scamp. Yeah, I can believe that. And now Dean Stevenson says Dodge Dart Sport Hang 10 or Rally. Oh, yeah, there were all kinds of variations of that. They had a bicentennial model for 1976, the Space Duster, the Dart Sport, the light, the one that had the folding seat, which interestingly, my Dart Sport has the folding seat brackets in the back. Hadn't had a back seat in probably 40 years, but it still has the brackets there. So that thing actually had that, which is wild. And I didn't realize, I didn't even know that until Adam from Hoosier's Garage saw a picture and said, hey, man, check that out. You have the rare folding seat brackets. See, Andrew Nelson was trying to get creative and abbreviate Paul's name. He got caught. Yeah, Levi says his Laguna's been called a Cutlass and Camaro and Nova. Yeah. Heavens Mopars, everyone calls the Duster Nova. Well, I was thinking it was just Duddy, but apparently not. Feather Duster, yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of that. That was their lightweight one. It's funny because that was a lightweight car back when cars weighed 4,000 pounds in the day when a C-body was considered a normal car. It's a land yacht by today's standards. And the Duster Twister, that was a 318 car. I think the Dodge version of the Duster Twister was the what do they call that thing? What they call the Dodge, the Demon version of the Duster Twister. They had one. It was like the Sizzler or something. It was the 318 with the rally wheels and the sporty stuff, but it didn't have the 340 and the 8 3/4 and such. Crop Duster, yeah. That was a project car, I believe, for Hot Rod Magazine. The Hang 10, yep. Well, they would market that with a surfboard on top. Sizzler, okay, yeah. Blake knows. That's what I was thinking. It's been a couple years since I've seen one of those. They're not very common at all. Colleen, I think BNR said for her to check the ECU. Yeah, I'm telling you, bad grounds will have you chasing problems forever on that kind of stuff. Mohawk says, my favorite guess was the guy who thought it was an AMC Rebel. Yeah, I can see that. Mr. Norm's demons were cool. Everything Mr. Norm had was cool. Mr. Norm had cool stuff. Don says my 62 Valiant has been called a Studebaker a few times. I could see that. There's a lot of people don't know what that car Don's is. Bad Tree says that Cruster Duster only made in 75. Factory quarter rust from Wisconsin. Yeah, I bet you see some really gnarly rust up there. I kind of miss Blake's Duster. I kind of miss him tooling around in the Slant 6 Duster. But you can still see it on his channel intro. I think that the Bad Tree guys and Nivlac 57 have two of the best intros for videos out there. Both really good. Most of the old parts, our 62 Valiant was called a Studebaker so often I contemplate putting a Lark emblem on it. Oh man, that would really upset the guys with the over the calf White Sox car show and the hat with the make and model of car on it. That would really do wonders for those guys. Stone Axe reliable indeed. That's a cool car. And yours was a 75, Blake? I think it's a 75. Next to last year. I know one of the only ways that I can think of it offhand to tell a 73 from a 74 is they changed the seatbelt. I think they made a 74 had the more modern seatbelt that you put on in one piece, shoulder and lap. I think 73 still had the old style. It was two pieces. So, Colleen, for whatever it's worth, I can't even follow this necessarily, but Dean suggests this. And Dean is a Ford guy. He knows a lot of tech. So sift through that, talking about 5 grounds and talking about a 60-pin box. And he's talking about things I'm glad I don't have on my vehicles. 75 had the hillside Hemi. 75 had tail panel 1 year on. Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, he's right. She told me about that. And he says it's over by Rabbit Transit Garage, is what Blake is saying. So still around, still in the community. Unfinished project, she hasn't said. He just says fuel delivery issues. It might not even be a problem. It's an issue. It's a debate about fuel delivery. I don't know. Scott says, my dad's black 62 Lancer and his intro, people just gave up and asked him what it is. Yeah, people, there's so many things. What gets me is when people have a really common car that you know exactly what it is. Let's say it's even a late model car, and it'll have the make and model on the back of the car, and then they put it on the license plate. Like, what is that even for? If you have something really rare, like, I don't know, like if you have a Bricklin, right? Okay, I get putting that on the license plate because nobody's going to know what that is if you don't. But I'm laughing at this comment right here. You know how funny that is. Nobody can call it a finished project. Hey, it's Wendy is home 6.5 minutes early. Just saying. You can almost set your watch by Wendy being home at 9:30. Ron says, make and model scripted on the car. Tech car still reads Camaro. Yeah. I think Deke does a pretty good job getting his makes and models right. Of course, Deke is very conscientious like that. So. And we'll catch this here since we're about at the 9:30 mark. We're going to have a live just on passing tech with AHRA Tech Inspector Deke Denny, and it's going to be a week from now. So it'll be next Friday, the 26th. We will have Deke Denny in here, and that'll be a time to bring your tech questions. And also, if you want to email me the tech questions in advance and I can get them to Deke before he comes on, that's even better. And if we have about 10 of them that are all the same, what we will do is condense them into one helpful response. But go ahead and send them to me, John at PrincetonDragway.com, and we will save those up and get them all together. I'm going to post my email in the chat. Make sure it's spelled right. And you can get me that question ahead of time if you wish. Deke the Freak Legend. You know what? I like how it worked for the Bad Tree guys at Tech last year because Deke watches their channel. And so he knows what they did, how they did it. Everything had been seen ahead of time. So guess what? They got 3 cars through Tech like that. And if you get ahead of the thing, it makes your Tech experience much easier. Ron says Deke is overworked and underpaid at No Name Nationals. Folks, bring him cash and a sandwich. Tech goes smoother. Deke does not accept bribes, but I'll tell you what, we appreciate him. And, I think saying thank you is very much in order. Deke he is very helpful to us. Patrick says, sounds like a chicken walked across your keyboard. Okay. RT211 says, are you Mopar people going to the Mopar Blast in St. Louis in May? I hadn't even heard of it. Deke will have fun with the Charger. You never know. There's stuff that goes through Tech better than it looks. You're going to have to pay attention to some things on that, though, Scott. Really, you will. I mean, I'm sure looking at the rest of that car, we're going to want to know what's your fuel line like? What are your brake hoses like? So, you can do it. You just see, you're taking that Charger from really bad and bringing it up to a standard. But once it's there, it's there. So you can do it. Yeah, I think that raceway you're talking about there at Gateway is now called Worldwide Technology Raceway or something. And Sean O'Brien, one of our No Name 500 guys, works there. So you may well see him there at the event. RT211 says he's been going there for 4 years. It was in July and they moved it to May. Okay. Hope they have the bleachers off the track by then. Okay. I still call it Gateway. Yeah, I couldn't imagine changing after that many years. I've told people before, like, if it's somebody I've known for a lot of years, and like, let's say they'll get married, change your name, I'm not going to remember that. I'll call them the old name, whether it was a maiden name or an old married name, for till so long that they'll probably be on like the next husband before I ever make the update. I can't ever remember when people do that kind of stuff. So the Gateway thing, it'll already be 2 or 3 more corporate names down the road before I would ever think to call it anything but Gateway. Yeah, Dizzy's close. He says he's going to go. Cultured Redneck says, I'm glad Deke answered some of my questions with mine being a rail. There's a lot of things to bring up to standards I wouldn't have thought otherwise. Yeah, I'll tell you, it is really handy being proactive. And what Kyle did there, Cultured Redneck Garage, is take pictures of things you have questions about. Email them to me. Send me the pictures. And getting way ahead of it is the way to just address this stuff. So when you get to Sykes, you can just sail through Tech, because Deke can just look at it and say, check, this is right, this is good. I've seen these pictures. I knew what I was looking for, and it'll help you. Blake is out, says, have a good weekend, heathens. Well, later, Blake. Thanks for joining us, man. And there is the link to Cultured Redneck Garage. If you want to see him and his Sandrail project and any of the other things he's working on, I think it's a 71 or 72 satellite that he's got there on that channel. If you like Weber carburetors, he's got that going on there. So check out what he's doing. Blake is a popular guy. What can I say? But I'm glad Blake stopped in. And there is the link to the One-Eyed Cat channel. I got to visit the One-Eyed Cat this past weekend, and I saw them on Friday before I got to see Buck and the Nelsons on Saturday. And man, I'll tell you, Don, I can show this here too. Don has done an amazing amount of work getting his Valiant. I'll tell you, it'd be amazing to see the improvements he has made in there. I mean, proper battery box, bolted down, re-welded the cell, added the rollover vent, the battery shut off. He has done a lot of work in there to make that car kosher. So he's setting a good example. So Brian sent me this, Dust Devil Brian. This is interesting. He said, this is Gateway drag strip after the storm last night. So this is what that comment was about by getting the stands out. So they apparently lost a section of bleachers in a storm on the track. Look at that. That's at Gateway. Wow. Yikes. Well, you know what? I'm sure they'll rally. That's a great facility. But man. Later, Dizzy. Have a good evening. Here's a link to Calvin Nelson's channel. Also, I'll just mention it too. There's someone who has started a GoFundMe for Calvin Nelson. It is going to be a very, it's going to be a big financial hit for them. No matter what's recovered or whatever, it's still going to be a big financial hit. And there is a GoFundMe started for them. And there is a link to that on our last video that we did the day before I was there. And you know where that link is. So, you know, if you're interested in that, it's out there. But I just thought I'd mention that because I've had several people ask me. Thumper, that's a great question for Deacon. I'm trying to just consolidate everything there because I want that to be the place where we send people that may have the same question. Do we need a battery box? There's no holes in the rear seat package shelf area. I don't think that you have to have a box anyway. I think it's about having a hold down there. But that is a good question for next Friday. So, Cultured Redneck says those are pretty tall bleachers. Yeah, you could see they were very tall bleachers because you can see the ones on the other side. Can you imagine the sound that made, wind crashing that over? No, Danny Boyd, that's the kind of thing that winds up getting somebody it shouldn't. Dakota's made it. How's it going, Dakota? Bigfoot Mark says howdy. Cool. Bigfoot Mark, are you bringing the Savage? Or are you bringing the Belvedere? Are you bringing both? I saw an old video where Bigfoot's part of the short that he put out, and it made me think of that. Yeah, and Lars has put up the Nelson's link right there. And again, they didn't start that. They didn't ask for anything. But there's a person who's running that for them, and it's going to be an enormous loss no matter what. But hopefully that takes some of the sting out of it. So, and shows people, shows them that people do care too. But again, that's up to you guys. Thumper says, I sleep in my truck, so good luck getting away with anything on my trailer. You know, and sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. You just never know. Heavens Mopar says, is there a list of requirements and details for car to pass tech? Yes. It's called the AHRA rulebook, and there is a link to that on the nonamenationals.com. Down at the bottom, the AHRA rulebook is right there. And if you need any plain English anything about it, the perfect place to ask that is a week from now in the Tech Passing Live with Deke. But we always have questions about that. One thing I will say, Scott, is your car, you probably don't have to worry about any of the tech requirements for going way too fast. Like, I don't think you need to worry about cage or any of that stuff. But what you will probably with that car, at least, the first year, is you'll need to make sure you have things like an overflow bottle for the radiator, because I'm sure that it didn't have one. You'll need to worry about things like making sure you have seat belts. Even factory belts in good condition for that are fine. You need to make sure you have a battery hold down. These are all things that when you drag a car out of the woods, you can't take any of that for granted. So, but that's the kind of tech probably you'd want to focus on that Charger. Because we have people who will overlook stuff like that and start thinking about roll cages. No, the cage has an ET brake, but there's certain basic tech you need to pass too. I had a box show up here a couple days ago. I thought it was so cool that Wendy sent some stuff for Jethro. So we've been playing outside. She sent him a rope and a tire to chew on and some stuff. I thought that was cool and sweet of them. I got some new channel stickers for the One-Eyed Cat. So I got version 1 back there in the case. This is version 2. They have a blue rim on them that matches the car. So hopefully they'll have some of those stickers at No Name Nationals. But yeah, Jethro's been having a blast. I got this. So you see that. Oh, where is that? That long ago. It was yesterday. There we go. This was Jethro took one of them with him to lunch. It's a rubber plate that looks like a 45-pound plate that you put on a barbell. He's carrying it around, and like my dog is rubbing it in that he works out more than I do. Neutral, safety, switch, seatbelts, battery, hold down right. Thumper is correct. Thumper is correct. Don says, I went as far as a drive shaft loop just because. Right. And you know what? Don's car doesn't necessarily need it yet, but any car is safer with it. And if Don ever wants to go to Slicks or gets to that place at ET, he'll already have it. Dakota says, I cross-threaded the transmission line to the radiator. Now it leaks fluid while it's running. I'm going to have to do something. Just fix it. You can fix it. I mean, even if it's a hard line, there's ways to fix that, Dakota. Like you could helicoil it. You could change your fitting on the hard line. Lots of ways to fix that. One the way you don't want to fix it, though, is don't try to put in a piece of hose with hose clamps. I've seen that a lot, but here's the thing. You're running too much pressure from the transmission pump, and that system is too much pressure for just rubber hose and hose clamps. Yeah, funny stuff, isn't it? Dog already looks way more athletic than me. I don't know why he needs to rub it in by carrying a plate for a barbell, but anyway, Danny Boyd says, I try seeing if another fitting will thread up. Yeah, you know what? I think that B&R has the best idea, though, is start with just cleaning it up with a tap first. Try just that first, because you might only have the first couple threads damaged, and it might be just fine if you clean it up with a tap. And it wouldn't hurt a thing to try that first before you, especially cutting and flaring line. Colleen says, I agree with the loop. I don't know how fast I'll go, but I don't want to beat up the underside of my truck. Well, it's not even just beating up the underside of your truck. I mean, you can wreck from that, I mean, if you have a front U-joint brake at speed, that's a catapult waiting to happen. I know a guy that had aluminum interior in his race car, and he broke a U-joint, and he said that drive shaft was flailing around like a medieval mace in that car. So after that, he ran a drive shaft loop front and rear, but you need to have one in the front. If you're running slicks or if you're running the right ET, you need to run a quick enough ET. You need to have one. But that's a big deal if you're running slicks. So let's just say you just have a set of slicks and we'll throw them on there to see what it does. Remember, if you're running slicks, you got to have a drive shaft loop. There's Cave Dave. What's going on, sir? Glad you could join us. If you see the grill there in Cave Dave's thumbnails if I can do this because it's on the opposite side. I love that 65 Plymouth grill. I think that's one of the best looking. Actually, 65 across the board. The Dart, the trucks, the Plymouth. I think they had the best looking grills. Let's see here. Professor P wants me to look at my phone. Do you want me to show what the picture you sent me, Professor P? Dean says, I love medieval mazes. You don't want one swinging around in your car. Colleen says, I made my own slicks. I could see that. I do too. Takes me about 50, 60,000 miles to make them, but yes. Danny Boyd says, all cars have drive shaft loops. I agree. And do you know that a CRV has them right from the factory? Yes, it does. And the nice thing about it is there's been one time I transported that CRV on a dolly, and it was to get a computer reprogrammed. And it has a drive shaft loop right there. So I just disconnect the U-joint, just set it right down on it. Couldn't have been easier. All right, Shane says to show it. This is a picture Professor P sent me. No context. I'm just going to show the picture. You draw your own conclusions. Be afraid. B&R is recommending gear wrench, makes nice tap set. But Dakota, that's really not a bad idea. I would get a tap and chase that and clean it up, and that might solve your problem. That's probably the easiest way to do it because the threads are in the radiator, and then you've got your steel line, and you don't want to have to really mess with that if you don't want to. It's double flare and it's steel, so that means it's going to be tough. Flare and copper is easy, but those factory lines are usually steel. Levi says, looking good. I'm only a little afraid of nitrous versus turbo. Let's go. Well, y'all make it happen. Got 152 days and 2 hours and 17 minutes. Rapid Transit Garages, it looks like it means business. I'd agree. Member says, I'm afraid of not making it down there again this year. Well, you made it last year. Hopefully you'll make it back. I tell you what, I'll tell you what, that Cookie Monster will move. So people bring some stuff. B&R says anything Dominator 4500 built for it is serious, naturally aspirated horsepower. I would agree. Danny Boyd says, hopefully the radiator threads are harder than the line fitting. You might be surprised. I don't know. I'm on his car. Dakota's rooting for Thumper with a car. Yeah, I hope so too. You can do it, Thumper. You got time. Tony says, I've got a double flare tool that laughs at steel lines. What I've found is a lot of cheaper flare tools have a hard time indexing the steel line. You put enough twist on it, and the dies and all are fine. It's just trying to get it to hold onto that line and keep it indexed in the right spot while you make the flare. So, but, for as much as Tony uses them, yeah, I can see wanting to have a good set. Unfinished Project says it looks like it's got that Hopak Kong tune in it. There's exactly nothing that looks or sounds or runs like this in Hopak Kong, New Jersey. Nothing. Blue or otherwise. Yeah, Tony says the radiator threads are likely exactly. I think that tank is softer than your line. That's why I'm saying, though, if you haven't cranked it, I'll see people that'll have something starting to cross thread. It's like, well, they just keep forcing it turn after turn. Like, it's not going to get better, people. Stop. As soon as it starts getting wonky, stop. Back the thing off. If you haven't gone about 6 turns wondering if it's going to get better, Dakota, you might just be able to fix it pretty simply with a tap. Thumper has a fancy flare tool. I've seen some flare tools that just look amazing. They got the little rotating heads on them and everything. I don't flare enough to have that, but yeah. Yeah, 250 for Mike. Yeah, see, that's good stuff. I've never even gotten to use flare tools like that. I have a cheap set that I really like. It makes really clean, real well measured, but some of the tough steel would be tough. Thumper says I make brake lines several times a year. I guess where you are, yeah. Yeah, I had a friend that had a Jeep, and his hard brake lines were rotten front to back in that thing. He said, and he went on a quest just fixing leak here and a leak there and a leak here. And after the half a dozen leaks, he said, "You know what? That was a mistake. I should have just gone everything new from the master cylinder to the wheels." Danny Boyd says, "I got a McParts flare kit, which is a tool rental I kept on the advice of the counter clerk." Okay, if they know, that's cool. Danny Boy says, "I'd rather have a 74 200 horse TA than a 1984 200 horse TA." Okay. I'll take stuff I know nothing about for 300, Alex. Unfinished project said compression fittings make it easy. Nah, stay away from that stuff for your brakes. Stay away from that stuff for your brakes. I've known lots of people have done it. Don't go that route. I don't even know if that's legal for tech anyway, but I wouldn't do it. I mean, I've done it plenty of. I've even gotten away from that on the oil pressure lines, even though that's what they're made to run. I found out that a much better solution is to stop your hard line once it goes on the firewall, and then just use like a number 3 brake hose and go over from that to the engine. Then it flexes, disconnects easy, everything. Sandy Baldwin taught me that trick like 30 years ago, because I figured out that nylon tubing that comes with those is garbage. And so I went to copper, but then the copper doesn't flex. And she said, "I got the solution that'll last." And she was right. Dakota says, "I can't wait to drive it with my new Quadrajet. Feel like it would go 14s in the quarter." Well, that's cool. Speaking of that, it's funny you mentioned that. My buddy Billy works at O'Reilly. They had this core come in today. I asked him what happens with your cores because, the core charge is cheap enough. I'd be interested in that. Don't know. Didn't hear back from him. Danny Boyd says compression fittings are bad, but they're less unaccepted in today's low standard society. Yeah, I guess they got their place, but I wouldn't want one in my brake lines. And Tony says, "I hate them unless they're on nylon airlines." Yeah, nylon airlines that's a place where I can really see those would be good. Or like on PEX, compression fitting on PEX tubing, which is practically the same thing. And he points that Q-Jet or Thermoquad is on its way to being molested by a 7-year-old Chinese kid. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'd like to get a hold of that car before it goes into the remanufactured junk mill. Thumper says, "I think a video of my flare tool would be good content. The old clamp style versus fancy one in a plastic one." Yeah, Thumper, make it. I'll share it. That'd be cool. He said the first time someone stops for an empty traffic circle and you jam the brakes, the compression fittings come up. Yeah, those make me nervous. I would definitely not do it on brakes. Tony says, "And further on the air brake lines, don't omit the insert that goes inside the line." Okay. Tony says the 74 TA actually had a Pontiac engine in it. I liked it when the Buick Olds Pontiac had their own engines. Cultured Redneck Garages, you end up seeing a lot of compression fittings in the off-road community. Doesn't make it right. Yeah, I get it, but at least in the off-road community, if you're talking about people like rock crawling or something, how much speed are those people stopping from, right? That said, I like to just do it once, deal with the flares and all that stuff one time, and just do it once and be done with it and get it done. And you never have to try to forget about it or worry about it again. There's Mac Wedge Dastardly. If you cannot see his comment, except where I've highlighted, of course, you need to switch to live chat. And there actually is a way to whitelist commenters on your channel too. And I'm not telling you should or shouldn't, but that said, I would trust Max Wedge Dick Dastardly with a whitelist on my channel to where his comments are always approved. Dean Stevenson talking about these exotic carburetors like the Webers and Delortos. I think that's how you pronounce that. Twisted Mopar says most people don't know how to do double flares. You're correct. Most people don't. And if you space them right, the tool holds them right, double flare is not hard at all. But it's just getting setups, all it is. I almost feel cheated. Our buddy Rich 220 was at one time going to flare up a bunch of brake lines on the 57, and now I think he's backed out of it. And I was so wanting to see that. Tony says, with proper tools, the flare is less cumbersome than screwing with the compression. I agree, yeah. Actually, you're right. With proper tools, the flare is less work than that compression fitting. I would agree with that. Because if you're going to put the little ferrule in there and compress it, you still have to dress the end of the line, and that's most of the work. Unfinished Project says one of the only redeeming qualities of the new Dukes movie. Which new Dukes movie are you talking about? You talking about that Abomination? It's about 2005. Talking about that one? Thumper, we're not exactly sure. It actually could be the all uppercase letters. It could be that silly. YouTube censorship is very silly. There's no wisdom over there at all. None. It's all just like teenage blue-haired people that have these arbitrary, this obscenity is okay, but this woke transgression that people don't even know they're making is not. And I have no idea. Twisted Mopar Garages, I know a few trucks and car with a single flare. Every time I see it on the road, I want to hide. Well, if it's stainless, it's supposed to be a single flare. But probably isn't. It's probably just somebody that just cranked it down and called it good and thinks it's the same thing. Dakota says he likes the 2005 Dukes movie. Okay, but nah, it's a mess. I think it kind of dirties up the name of the Dukes of Hazzard and what they wanted to do. Gets away from being family friendly and all that. So, not for me. Like for instance, the intellectual property on Mickey Mouse is gone now. So there's people wanting to do horror cartoons and things with it, and I just oh, come on, man, don't do that. Don't take something that's family friendly and all that, and it's just not for me. And that's what they did with the Dukes. I didn't really care for it. Thumper says, I can see YouTube not liking all caps. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. What movie is worse, Fast or Furious, the 05 Dukes? The 05 Dukes. Fast and Furious #1 actually had a lot of redeeming qualities. I think it was the first one was fine. Then they just had this huge plethora of sequels. I've seen one of the sequels, but it's all just crazy CGI nonsense. Yeah, I likes the movie, but it's nothing like the TV show. I agree. All caps is great for emphasizing a word or phrase in a sentence, though. Well, but that's not all caps. That's caps just on that word or phrase. By and large, all caps is kind of a mess. Um, if you don't use it sparingly, it loses all effect. Thumper says, diamond plate floors, danger to manifold, 9-second cars that took 26 seconds to go a quarter mile. Yeah, and NOS and all that. Yeah, that's the worst thing about Fast and Furious is we got that stupid term NOS. Ugh, hate that. Yeah, I've seen the first one. I've seen the second one. That's it. The second one, man, had some new ideas. I think all the rest of this stuff is all just spot shows of action. It's just not really my bag. But the first one was a good movie with a good story and all of that. Max Wedge Dick Dastardly says, Don, don't do any more honing. I'm back home, but going back next week. Okay. Max Wedge Dick Dastard is giving Don homework. He's helping Don get his 440 together. Yeah, the worst thing I think that Fast and Furious 1, yeah, it gave us some of that ridiculous buzz bomb Honda stuff and all that. Yeah, I agree. But the term NOS is really horrible. The worst thing the street outlaw stuff's given us is young people thinking it's cool to try to get by on the rules and do dangerous things, and it's cool and all, and it's not. And that to me is the worst thing we've gotten from that. It's amazing how impressionable some people are with stuff like that. Dakota said there wasn't enough people interested for it to be like movies about racing like it started. I don't know. A different crowd. Twisted Mopar Dennis says, by the way, gas is on the rise, $3.97 a gallon now. Yeah, I noticed up north it was about $3.75. Here it's about 340, 330 something. I can't really remember because it's like this. Whatever it is, if I'm going to go somewhere, I need to get it. Just, and there's no magic place around town that's going to really save anything to go find it either. I mean, pretty much dropping a C note to tank of that van every time you fill it, regardless. Thumper's got a movie to get done. Okay. That kind of sounds scary. Dakota says, remember, Universal's a bunch of penny pinchers that are looking for max. Well, that's what those studios do. They ruin it. They ruin a lot of movies. Unfinished Project recommends the intro for Stroker Ace. That's a blast from the past. Dougster paid $4.09 for 89 octane up in Michigan on Thursday. Ugh. I didn't need any more reasons to not want to live that far up north. Danny Boyd says Dale Earnhardt appears in Stroker Ace. Didn't know that. One of these years, I'm going to watch the Blues Brothers because there's a few people that think it's absolutely unbelievable that I have not seen the Blues Brothers. I've probably seen half of it if you put all these clips together. But One-Eyed Cat Don says we're lucky the cheapest pumps in town are 5 blocks away. Don, you live on a dragway. Don's street is like a dragway. So I pull up on Don's street, and the first thing that happens is somebody hits my mirror and then just parks and goes in his house. Like that happens every day. And then there's people on the rev limiter of their Honda just flying up and down. It's a narrow little street, too. I'm like, wow, is it always this exciting, on Don Street? Don's like, yeah, it's just pretty normal. Well, we'll see, Dougster. We'll see what happens. Hey, I don't know if Cope's watching. I think he probably turns in for Tony's. Tony will be live in about 20 seconds. We're going to cut out of here real fast. But anyway, note to Cope, if you're watching, you need to be playing up there. If you get the Blues Brothers playing somewhere up there, I'll come up. We'll go see it. So I've never seen it before. But anyway, we're out. We're right at time. So Tony is going to be live right now. We'll wrap up here. Quick reminder about the Content Creator Workshop this Sunday on this channel, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And then on the 26th of April, that Friday, a week from right now, we're going to have Deke Denny, the AHRA Tech Inspector, on to talk about passing tech. If you need to get any questions to him ahead of time, send them to john@PrincetonDragway.com. And that way, and with pictures would be especially helpful. And that'll be more helpful in us answering questions on Friday the 26th. But we'll see y'all there. Tony's live right now. Y'all have a great weekend.